Let's have a quick chat about writing habits that have changed the trajectory of my career and how I'm putting things together. Basically, there's 5 major concepts that have really put things into place as far as the writing habits go. The first is setting the goals and the destination, then the word counts, and then writing in the morning. Accountability partners have helped a lot, especially in places where I'm stuck. And then doing writing sprints. By setting the goals, it does a really good job of establishing what we want to hit. And I mean that in 2 senses. I mean that in the physical writing sense, and I mean that in the psychological sense. So when we have a goal for where we want to take the story, that's going to help because it's going to put us on a trajectory. That trajectory is going to go the places that it needs to go in the story. But if we have a situation in our own life where I need bread and milk, if you just get in the car and start driving, you might go the wrong direction and wind up at a hardware store. That doesn't necessarily take you to the goal of getting to your bread and milk. You have to plan to go to the grocery store to get your bread and milk, or your convenience store, wherever. If you have a goal in mind when you start the writing process, it will guide where you go, because definition of a goal. Likewise, if you have a goal for your productivity for the day, as in, I want to complete XYZ portion of my writing, I would like to put this many words onto the page, it becomes much easier for you to digest that. It can quickly turn into a positive habit. Putting yourself into a position where you have a goal to accomplish, it adds the purpose for our life the same as it adds the purpose for your character going to the grocery store in your story. It just depends on what we have to check off. And the better we become at managing our goals, the better we become at managing our character's goals and our destinations for those goals, the faster and easier it is for things to flow. The caveat to this is that some people like to write the Stephen King method, just sit down and start writing. It's the pantser versus plotter argument. So if you plot out your entire story, you're going to go point A to point finished fairly directly. Some people find that restrictive, and that's okay. The flip side of that is, if you just start writing your story, you may just wander in a circle. You may not go anywhere. You may not reach a destination you want. You may get most of the way through your story and then decide you hate it. That has happened to me too. Typically, by setting the goal, for me, what that does is it closes off some of those extraneous branches. Sometimes those branches help because it's another step on the adventure that your characters can take, and that's fine. When we're writing, especially creatively, for me, the journey is the fun, not necessarily the destination. The Star Wars example, we didn't go from the farm to toppling the galactic empire in a straight line. We had to have our ups and downs and trials. The other writing habit that's really helped change how my writing career has progressed is word counts. This was just as I was moving past the beginner into the intermediate phase that this really helped. I have been able to type for a long time. Establishing the daily word counts allowed me to account for how much I was writing in a day, in an hour, in a block of time. When we have a goal in mind, it's much easier to reach that goal. So tying in from the first piece of goals, word counts is an easy goal that we can measure. If we can measure it, we can improve it. It's sort of hyperbole, but not really. If we're sitting down to our word count and we start off and we can do 500 words in an hour, we're doing not bad. keep recording your word count for 30 days, and those 500 words an hour are probably going to turn into 750 words an hour after 30 days. Just like any other muscle, the word counts help us keep track of our mental push-ups, for example. So if we don't count the number of push-ups we're doing in the morning, we can quickly slack off. If we track the number of words that we're producing in an hour, in a day, in a session, however we're dividing it up, that allows us the opportunity to improve. Early on, I was producing about 500 words an hour. As I was tracking through this one up here, The Innkeeper's Niece, I think that I was having days where I was producing between 7,000 and 15,000 words. Total, I think that writing that entire book's draft manuscript took 20 days. It's 120 some odd thousand words long. And then it took about 10 days to edit. It was a ridiculously fast book to produce. That happened because I had written the first 2 Guardsman books and I was writing the Symbiote at the same time. And what happened was during those first 3 books, I got stuck on the Symbiote and I had to stop before I could finish it. But I'd basically written 2.5 books tracking my words. And what wound up happening was both my words per hour improved and my words per day improved. Because if you blast through 4,000 words in an hour, great. If you blast through 3,000 words over 4 hours, you've had a 12,000 word day. The sprint versus the endurance run, they're both important. But by keeping track of our daily word goal, that allows us to keep that goal in mind. We can monitor our splits on the track and we can improve. That's an important tool, and it's a quantitative tool that allows us to improve both for ourselves and for our record. It's a huge morale boost when you look back at your list of the last 100 days that you've written and you go from 500, 550, 500, 750, 1,000, 1,500, 3,000 words in an hour. And it's fairly simple math. You can find it somewhere else. I don't feel like doing math right now. Writing in the morning has also been a huge help to improve my writing habits. Writing in the morning, for me in particular, is very important because I will edit at night. If I edit at night, my brain will process the story while I sleep. I will wake up and I will have thousands of words of story in my head. I am not supposed to be writing right now because I have other projects I'm supposed to be finishing. But I edited last night before I went to sleep. I woke up with thousands of words on a story that I was bouncing around. It's taken me like 3 hours this morning putting those words into the different sections of the story that I was playing with last night because I woke up with the sections of the story improved in my head. So add another 2,500, 3,000 words in, like an hour and a half of actual work and another hour of searching for where I was supposed to be in the story to put those disparate parts together. Didn't plan that one very well, did I? Accountability partners and groups. I typically do not socialize when writing. When I socialize when I'm writing, it becomes a social group. I also struggle with getting back into the path of things. Those 2 issues for me aside. Accountability groups have helped a lot because reporting between the members of the group, if we're doing like 30-minute sprints or like an hour-long sprint, reporting what we've done keeps you focused. So instead of fiddling around with YouTube or doom scrolling social media, by having other people on the monitor with you, by having other people on the screen with you on a video chat, you're watching each other in the corner. And as long as somebody's not doing something doofy to distract everybody, knowing that the camera is on is like having the teacher over your shoulder, and during test period, you're not really going to be cheating. So the accountability partners keep us focused. Accountability groups, accountability partners have mostly worked the best for me when I was in a rut, when I was struggling moving something forward, when I was getting easily distracted and I had to lock in the focus, lock the lock, break the key, throw away the half of the key. The accountability groups do that for me. That is a rare situation. That's like a 2% kind of thing because of how long I've been doing, how much practice I have staying focused. I used accountability groups when I had already published more than 20 books. So for me, accountability groups did not start until much later when I already had the discipline, I already had the writing sprints down. I'm not sure how that would work for someone getting in. That's a buyer beware of bad habits kind of thing. Especially if you're writing with groups at like a coffee shop or something, it can very quickly turn into a social hour where you're throwing away 30 minutes there, an hour chit-chatting over coffee, half hour back, 2 hours of your day is burned, and then you have to worry about the getting set up when you get home, breaking down before you leave. Suddenly you've lost half the day. So accountability groups is a buyer beware kind of thing. Writing sprints I've mentioned a few times. Writing sprints work best in conjunction with goals and recording. The writing sprint is important because that's where you improve. When you're training for running or a marathon, you're going to be running intervals if you're trying to improve your time, because you need to improve your stride, you need to improve the spring in your step, you need to improve your form. In order to do that, you're going to be doing sprinting and stretching and other kind of things to elongate your stride. So instead of stepping 30 inches, you're stepping 33 inches, you're stepping 36 inches with every step. So basically the same energy burned, you're getting 3 inches further effectively. Easy math, not physiologically correct, but bear with. So the same number of steps, you end up covering more distance. Writing sprints are analogous to doing the interval training, doing the cross training for distance running, for sprinting. For me, the writing sprints were the most effective and most benefit when I recorded the start time and the stop time. I'd sit down 15 minutes before, I'd read to make sure I was in the right section, I'd have things in my head, knowing where I wanted to put what. Typically in the morning again, I would sit down, I'd calibrate the brain, and then we'd turn over to 6, 7:30, 8, 9, whatever time I'm starting for the day. And then the writing sprint would start. And I would type. In the process of the writing sprint, all social media is disconnected. The phone is turned off. No more alarms coming in. We have no phone calls coming in. Everything's off. We're locked in a box. And I focused entirely on the writing sprint. The goal for the writing sprint was to blast as much onto the page as possible. No editing, no rereading, no nothing. The writing sprint was there purely to put the bulk words into the page. As we're welding our words into the page with the writing sprint, we're doing so knowing that we're making spelling errors. We're doing so knowing that we're phrasing things incorrectly. For me, the goal for the writing sprint is to vomit as much onto the page as possible. Because when our time is up, if we're doing timed, awesome. I would run until I was done. And then I would look at my time completion. I'd put my time completion. I'd put how many words I'd added to the page. And then I'd let the Excel do the math. And then boom, congratulations, here's your 4,500 words per hour. An hour and a half later. 2 hours, 3 hours later. So in that morning, I might knock out 9,000 words at 3,000, 4,000, 4,500 words an hour. I'd stop, I'd get up, take a break, and then I'd come back and I would reread what I wrote. It was very important for me, for my writing sprint, to get the words out and then have a definitive break between the actual writing and then the editing, making sure all the little red lines and blue lines and whatnot go away. It was important to keep those processes separate. For me, that helped a lot. That's 5 pretty solid writing habits that have changed the trajectory of my career. I didn't want to get into the specific strategic level stuff. This is the tactical level stuff that's helped me move forward and be more productive. I hope that helps somebody. You have a wonderful day.